Matty Fresh on the track up at State. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate. Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and ballin' like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
Welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball on this Penn State bye week. So we don't have a ton to talk about this week in terms of what to look forward to for Penn State, but we do have for other schools, and that's why Jay Nelly is here to drop his surgical six for us right at the beginning. We're going to start off with this just so everyone hears it.
All right, so surgical six. I'm throwing 10 on this personally. Hopefully it hits. Kansas spread versus TCU. Kansas is hot. I'm just got to ride with them. I want to take the money line, but, like, it's still Kansas, so, like, they could suck randomly.
What's the line?
It's +7, and it's home at Kansas. Oh, okay. The like money line now?
No. The line, the point line.
Oh, okay, we're trying.
Okay.
All right. And then I took Tennessee money line over LSU. I don't know though. That one's a little iffy.
Where's that game?
What'd you say?
Where is it?
LSU at 12. So like, it could go either way.
Yeah, that's actually 11 there too. So it's a very early game.
Yeah, that is an early game.
Yeah.
And then I got Utah money line versus UCLA. I don't think UCLA is that good. I mean, they're 4-0, but like Pac-12, Utah, I think will get them. And then
they
Kentucky
smoked UW though. Like they kind of beat Washington pretty bad last week.
Yeah, so they came back and made that look good. But
what do you like about Utah in that game, Nelly?
Against UCLA, I just don't trust UCLA yet. Like, I mean, it's at UCLA. It's not home field advantage. They fill up like 20% of their stadium. And Utah is just they played at Florida, rough start of the year. Yeah, sure. They've had good atmospheres. They battled with them. They should have won that game, honestly, if you didn't throw a pick the last play. So I think they can come out on top. And then my next bet, I got Kentucky beating just money line versus South Carolina. Just threw it in there because of Will. And I hate South Carolina.
Future number one pick.
He might be hurt, actually. He might not play in that game, I saw.
Because of his finger or what?
The line apparently dropped like 4 points, and someone tweeted like Will Levis is more than questionable or something. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, they're only minus 250 now, so maybe not throwing Kentucky. If Will plays, I say throw Kentucky. But
all right.
And then I took this is my big one: Arizona plus 13.5 against Oregon at Arizona. I think they're going to cover. Arizona's good. Like, they're underrated, and Oregon's not that good, I don't think. I think they're an overrated team. Because who they get smacked by? Like, they got killed by Georgia first week. Yeah. I mean, that's Georgia, and they're playing Arizona, though, but still. I think Arizona can cover. And then I took Bama money line versus A&M.
A&M, okay.
All right, couple of notes.
Always bet on Saban.
So, let's see. Arizona, 3-2 right now. That's probably their best start in forever. Kind of killed San Diego State 38-20. Got beat pretty good by Mississippi State, who is now fantastic. Beat North Dakota State and then lost to Cal. Last week, they beat Colorado. So, okay, that's a good one. You said that's money line. What's the line?
No, I took
spread. Sorry, what was the spread?
13.5.
Okay, very good. Very good.
I mean, maybe. I mean, they're getting better. They're playing better. I just took a risk just to make the odds better personally, and I like watching those games. Take the underdog. So hopefully that hits.
Right. So you bet all that, and then you hedge it against the you take Oregon the other way, right? And you hedge that way.
That's true. Yeah, I could do that. That's actually smart. I probably should start doing that more. It's always one bet that it screws me the whole time, every time. But.
Kentucky is right now minus 205, so that's come down a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Levis is definitely hurt. Yeah.
Yes. Will Levis.
Yeah. So you went. What was it? 6 for 6 last week, and we couldn't have you on. We did give you a shout out, but we were going to give you a minute to brag about the fact that you went 6 for 6.
I mean, I don't even have to brag. I could do pretty well. It's just the parlays. I need to stop.
Right.
When I bet just straight up, like what? I bet Kansas against Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
I won 30 to win 52. I bet Wake Forest to beat Florida State. I bet Illinois to beat Wisconsin, 20 to win 63. Like when I actually think about it and like look at it, I'm pretty good. I looked at these, so I think they're gonna hit.
Good. Okay.
All right.
We'll see if we want any more surgery from Jay Nelly after this week, or if we in that capacity anymore.
Yeah. If this one doesn't go well, you have to speak in Latin next episode. So
that's gonna be rough. Probably failed that exam today, but that's all.
Oh boy. All right, Jay Nelly. Well, hopefully the surgical 6 hits. We'll look forward over the weekend, and then we'll come back next week. We'll review it. And then you could give us your thoughts on Penn State, Michigan, and the 3 going forward.
This right now we're dubbing. That's all you
All
need
right.
to know.
I agree.
All right, Jay Nelly. We'll see you soon, buddy.
Yes, sir. Catch y'all.
All right. Great to have him back on.
It's always good to have the friends on. Right?
Yeah. It was always good. Yeah, we had to start with him just in case his Wi-Fi nuked. So to what happened last Saturday? Penn State won, obviously. Hopefully 17-7 though, and there was a lot to not like about that. I guess it started out relatively okay. It was 14-0 at half, and then the second half got outscored 7-3 by Northwestern. I mean, they just had a really hard time moving the ball. Sean Clifford was just 10 out of 20 for I think 140 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and then the running backs 4 fumbles, Singleton twice, Allen and Lee each one. So it was so bad that Franklin ended up all the way back to the beginning of the running back rotation because he benched every single one of them. So that wasn't ideal. I mean, they did not look great as a group, I felt like. I mean, they ran the ball almost 60 times in this game. I don't know. I want to blame it on the fumbles, and I also just want to blame the fumbles on the rain and say it was an outlier. I mean, considering this team did not fumble once in the first 4 games. Well, Clifford did fumble that hit against Auburn, but it went out of bounds. So they did not lose a fumble in the first 4 games. They only had 1 turnover in the first 4 games, and then they have 5 against what I would call a very subpar Northwestern team. So, is there legitimate concern here? Are we just blaming this on a Category 5 hurricane? Like, what do we look at this with?
So, okay, glass half full. It was against Northwestern and they won, right? So I think there is some benefit to that. Saquon, when he was a freshman, had fumbled it several times, I think, right? And then from his sophomore year on, I don't think fumbled once, including until his second year in the NFL or something like that. So let him get it out of their system now. Let the young guys learn that this happens, right? And you need to protect the ball at all costs. So I want to chalk it up to horrible conditions and some inexperience at the running back, and that's it. So let's hope that. Now, interestingly, 15th time under James Franklin that they have had a -2 turnover margin, 7 and 8 in those games, which is not bad because the average college football team only wins 25% of the time. So count your stars that they managed to get a win. And that happened against Northwestern because you're not -2 against Michigan, Minnesota, or Ohio State and walking out of there with a victory.
No, and I mean, just turning the ball over 5 times is remarkable. I'm sure those other times they were -2 is probably 3-1 or 2-0. Yeah, just the fact that they turned the ball over 5 times and won is crazy. And I also think that says a lot about Manny Diaz's defensive effort to the fact where it was only a -2 differential because of how well that unit played again. I mean, outside – and I tweeted this, outside of the third quarter against Purdue, where they gave up 14 points, they've been lights out this year. You really don't have, something of a bone to pick with anything they've done since that point. I feel like everything that they've been doing from, coverage to sacks to turnovers, everything has been pretty well done.
So go look at me at forthebloggy.com. But this week, so Penn State's pass defense is 90th in yards allowed per game in the country, which sounds really bad, right?
Right.
But teams are passing on them most in the in FBS, so 45 passes per game, and they're 14th in pass yards per attempt. So there's a lot of misleading things out there, right? And you can look at like they are very good on a per play basis, and the rush defense is 14th in yards per carry allowed, 5th in rushing yards per game allowed. They're not getting as many rushes against them because everybody's trying to pass stupidly. So they're killing it. Like you said, even having a -5 or being 5 turnovers, they're still 17th in the country in turnover margin. So yeah, I think the defense is tremendous. I had an article today that came out or yesterday and for the bloggy talking about some of the advanced stats on defense, and they're just like they're as good as any Penn State team since 2009 basically so far. Now the meat of the schedule is coming up, so you got to take it a little bit with face value or with a grain of salt, but so far absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, it has been. And, like you said, those passing stats, a little skewed. I mean, Purdue doesn't even try to run the ball. Their run game is their pass game. You give up 300 passing yards to them, I think you consider that a victory. And then, Auburn threw for 300 yards, I think, but it was 41-12. They were just trying to get back in the game, and Penn State was more than okay with letting the dink and dunk happen. And kind of same with Central Michigan, too. A lot of underneath slants that went for 5 to 8 yards, nothing crazy. So, I mean, they gave up a lot of yards. We got to put context on those yards. Overall, they've done a really great job there defending the pass when it's mattered. And, we'll see because, like you said, these next 3 teams, and even I'll add in Maryland a little later, those are the 4 outside of Purdue, 4 of the 5 best passing teams still play this year. They're going to play in the next 6 weeks.
Yep.
So, we'll see. We'll see over this stretch really how good that pass defense is. I will say the one thing with the pass rushes, they're not getting home a lot. They're always kind of there. I think they're first in the nation in pass rushes, but they're middle of the pack in sacks. That's something I'd like to see a little more, just get there a little more often, it feels like.
I agree. That was one of the things I wrote about today. So they're number 1 in pass breakups by an infinite margin. So since 2009, they're averaging 10.8. The second best team since 2009 was 2010 Oregon. This is the top of my head at 7.7, for the whole season. So they are so far better. But sacks, they're averaging 2.4 sacks per game, which is dead average of FBS. So that's not great. And then tackles for loss, they're a little bit down too. So I think an average is 6.3, and they're at 5.4 right now. But they're taking the ball away at a higher rate. So they're breaking up passes at an incredible rate and taking the ball away higher than they should. So, you want to see them get home a little bit more. But those pressures lead to pass breakups too, right? And things like that. So, I don't know. A couple of things on defense to clean up. But I don't think that's the big problem that people have with this team either, right? No, and the other one, and just for what it's worth, Barney Amore is probably the greatest punter. And a lot of the defensive stats are because of him, right? And the offenses have to drive a hell of a long way to score when he pins them inside the 5 every time. That puts a lot of pressure on them. So he is a weapon and a half. So there you go, James Franklin. Wants more people to talk about that.
Special teams player of the week. I think this might be the second time already this year. You bring that up. That was something that we talked about a lot with Morgan on our preseason preview. Was the fact that Jordan Stout was gone. It's he actually played a big role in those defensive numbers last year, and that was a concern of mine. And now it seems like Amore has picked up right where he left off. I mean, the fact that they have 3 straight punters who could be NFL punters is pretty remarkable, honestly. That, because it's such a position where it's so hard to hit on. I feel like, you get a lot of guys that are shanking them 25 yards. To get 3 straight guys that are NFL caliber punters is pretty impressive. And, it's an emphasis. Franklin does put an emphasis on special teams. So good job there.
Yeah. We will not talk about the other part of the kicking game, but
punting
is fantastic.
Yeah, that's probably, we'll only be talking about that maybe in a week when it screws them. Hopefully not, but it feels like it's going to get to that point. But what you were leading into is the quarterback situation, because after what I thought were 3 really well played games by Clifford to start the year, Central Michigan a little shaky. The whole team as a whole was kind of rusty. They were just coming off of that
let down.
Yeah, I don't put a lot of that blame on him. He was pressured a lot in that game too. He was scrambling a ton in that game. That the Central Michigan did bring the blitz a lot, and at times the offensive line struggled to pick it up, especially because they were bringing like safeties on a delay and they were having trouble picking them up, and it gave him trouble. So I kind of gave everybody a pass for that. But, this week, 10 out of 20, the really bad interception, almost had another one where he missed Parker Washington, but Washington was in double coverage by the time the ball was thrown.
Oh my gosh, that dude.
Yeah, the people around me, the Aller chants were getting louder, a little more aggressive because of the introduction of alcohol in the stadium. But I was just like, it was weird because he did not look good at all. But at the same time, I was a little confused what the game plan was, because the one time they did go downfield, he completed it for 43 yards to Parker Washington, and then it's like they never tried it before that or after that again. It was so odd. I know it was raining, but it's like they didn't even really try to push the ball down the field at all. It was very odd. I didn't want to put all the blame on him, but a lot of it, he looked very off at times, and he's also not really running at all, which is weird to me. And so I guess the point I'm trying to get at is this all him, or is there like some kind of coaching thing going on here where it's like, we're not going to push the ball downfield and you're not going to run? The two things that, in 2019, he was pretty successful at was running and throwing the ball deep to KJ Hamler. So why aren't we doing neither of those things now?
There's a lot to unpack there. So let's start. I will start with the running bit, right? I think, like you said, he had more runs, I feel like, against Auburn. I mean, the first drive of the game was one that ended a little bit badly for him.
Yeah.
But he is absolutely not running as much as last year and much as previous years. And I'm sure that is somewhat by design, because they don't want him to get beat up, and he probably is sick of getting beat up too. But then, it's stalling drives because he's trying to throw on the run and making poor throws. And that's a little tough to swallow for your 6-year quarterback. You want him to just make the right decision. We talked about this over and over again. The going downfield bit, though, like we looked at before the game, he is 3 for 17. And you said somebody tweeted this. 3 for 17 in balls traveling more than 20 yards in the air. As a team, they have thrown the ball 165 times so far this year. I don't have his stats right handy, but about 10% of the time, give or take, they are going downfield. I don't know what the average is, but it seems like they're not taking a lot of shots, right? We looked at the game by game, and it's 2 against Northwestern and 2 against Central Michigan, and I think 3 against Auburn. They're not doing what they did, like you said, with when KJ was around, which is now many years ago, but we'd have to look at last year to see how that was too. But it's definitely seems a lot more conservative and a lot more running.
Yeah, it does. They are going more towards the run, which I know they made an emphasis to be able to run the ball more than last year, because they felt that was their demise last year, was that they couldn't run the ball. But also kind of looking at this like receiver group, and I'm like, the stats aren't that good. Like Parker Washington has 20 catches for 285 yards and 0 touchdowns, and I'm like, this is a guy that caught, I think, 65 balls last year for 800 something yards. And I'm like, I thought he was going to be, more of an emphasis this year with Dotson. He's kind of, what are they doing? I feel like they're not targeting these guys enough. And they're not, when they are, a lot of it is like these bubble screens and these like quick outs and stuff. I'm like, there's nothing really like in that 10 to 15 yard range down the middle, which is what Washington really seemed to excel at last year. And the year before, even a little bit. So I'm a little confused. Like, what are they saving this stuff for this 3-week stretch that's coming up? Like, is it just out of the playbook for some reason?
Yeah.
They don't trust Clifford on it. I'm really confused what is kind of going on there with that.
I want to be the guy who just confidently says they're saving it all for Michigan and Minnesota, but that is never the case, right? Like that almost
we've thought that so many times. Yeah.
So I don't know. They don't trust him, or they don't trust the receivers, or they don't trust somebody, I guess. You want it to, like, I don't know, maybe against Michigan they'll throw downfield 20 times, play action pass and things, but something's up there, like you said. And I think, you said Parker is at 20 for 285. That means he's gonna be, 60 for 900 or something like that at the end of the year. But that's not where you want to be per se, right? I multiply everything by 3 as you're doing the math in your head. So, but yeah, you thought he'd be a bigger piece. You thought Mitch Tinsley
started off hot. It's kind of the past couple of weeks has been a little MIA.
Targets are just they're not there.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And part of that is that they, those Ohio, Auburn, Central Michigan, the starters didn't really play the second half. So, I mean, that's understandable. Like these guys in reality have played like 3.5 games, I guess, to say, like, so you got to look at it that way too, I guess. But I don't know. It just seems like something's off. And it is because they are running more, but the targets are way down for what we thought was at least a talented receiving group. Now they lost Lambert Smith to an injury against Northwestern, and then he apparently didn't practice this Tuesday. Hopefully, it's not anything.
He did not, right?
Yeah, he did not. No, and then it was said that he was in a walking boot after the game, but that could be anything from a broken foot to a sprained ankle is kind of what they put in a walking boot directly after a game, is from what I understand. So I don't know. Hopefully, just maybe a sprain that they're giving him the week off and they try him again next week. But if not, I mean, guys like Harrison Wallace, like can step in there, I feel like, and do some good things. They keep putting in true freshman Omari Evans, and every time they put him in is kind of when they've been taking the shot. Clifford missed him on it this week. Aller hit him on it in the Ohio. Yeah, the one in the end zone. Yeah,
that was kind of a drop too, I feel like.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that's a tough catch.
It was tough. Yeah, that was the other thing. Clifford missed 10 passes on Saturday, and at least 3 of them were drops, and then probably 2 more were when he had to scramble out of the pocket under pressure. So, I mean, when you cut those numbers up, maybe they're not as bad. I thought Wallace should have maybe had that touchdown in the end zone. I know it was a tough adjustment, but, Clifford put that ball where only Wallace was going to get it. No one else was going to get it. So I think, people look at the incompletion, but in reality, that was actually a pretty good throw.
And that had to be a more than 20-yard throw, right? I don't remember exactly where they were, but it seemed like
yeah, that one, it was close. I think it was. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, anybody who listens to this and is an anti-Clifford, which lots of people are, they're going to, complain about it. But I don't know. You're not trying to make excuses. You're trying to just, like, set the context of what reality is. And all these things are true, right? Like, there are more drops than there have been. You don't have Jahan Dotson that caught every single ball always, right? So, and it was wet this week, and they're not taking as many shots, and all these things are true. So whether you like it or not, right, they exist as facts. So.
Yeah, I guess it comes down, and we'll probably get into this next week. What happens if they lose to Michigan? Is he done then? Like, do they move on? I think it would take the 2 losses for them to totally move on, because you take the chance that Michigan loses to Michigan State. Michigan State looks bad, but you never know. It's a rivalry game, and then Ohio State. Then you somehow beat Minnesota and Ohio State at home, you're technically still in the running to make the Big Ten championship. So I think it would take 2 for them to pull him and look to the future. But, this is a big game for him too. I think the team as well, but he has a lot to prove here. And I think he needs to show that, like, his experience and everything he's been through maybe means more in this game than Aller's arm talent, which no one is denying that his arm talent is, a lot better than Clifford's. But as I've tried to tell people have been to me, well, how come Singleton and Allen can play right away and Aller cannot? And it's like, there's such a massive difference between being a running back right away and being a quarterback. Because when you're a running back, you're pretty much just worried about what you're doing. You're blocking assignment where you're supposed to run. If you're getting the ball, what are you doing? Like, what's your route? When you're the quarterback, you're worried about the 5 people in front of you's blocking assignment. You're worried about the 5 people's routes. There's a lot more.
And the 11 guys on the other side of the ball.
Yeah. There's a lot more that goes into it than throwing the ball 65 yards downfield. And I think maybe this will be the week people realize that. Hopefully, I thought the Auburn game, that kind of started to sink in. And now I think that he's played bad the last 2 weeks. It's kind of been drawn back out. So I think that'll be the key thing.
I forget. I saw that stuff on Twitter that you were fighting with the guy, and to that guy, that is the dumbest question ever. Like, that's the dumbest take ever. It doesn't work that way, right? Like, and it happens in the NFL too. Very few rookie quarterbacks in the NFL are successful. Tons and tons of rookie running backs are successful, right? So yeah, there's just a hell of a lot more to worry about, and it happens in the blink of an eye, right? Like, we do not make decisions. We do not need to make any decisions in our lives that are nearly at the same speed that they are. So that's stupid. Sorry, guy. Now here's like a blessing, right? Like, so it's going to Michigan,
right?
Auburn, he played extremely well. And somebody, I forget if it was on the broadcast or Kadudi on the video after, talking about how he's directing everybody, every play, and he's in total control of the offense. He did that. He beat Iowa a couple of years ago at Iowa. He played pretty well against Ohio State last year after the Illinois loss, where he was like nearly as hurt as he was the whole year, right? Auburn last year, he played lights out. He does have a tendency to stand up pretty well in the big games. 2020 notwithstanding, like that sucked for the first 5 games or whatever, but he has done a very good job in the big moments. So, now he never beat Ohio State and whatever, and I get all that, but like still, he has not crapped the bed, I guess, in any of these big games. So I don't think.
Yeah, a lot of people like to put that Minnesota game from 2019 on him. It's like if Justin Shorter makes an effort on 2 of those interceptions, they're not interceptions. They're either caught or they're incomplete. The guy stood there while the defensive back took the ball from him. And then of course the third interception was after that BS pass interference call, and then he's just trying to make a play in the end zone to win the game. And it happens. So I think people look at that game and those numbers are a little skewed too, I think. But
100% like that. They had that pass interference call was garbage, and that was the difference in the game, right? So Journey Brown would have scored a touchdown and it would have been over, right? So they're gonna win. They're gonna beat Michigan. I am sitting in Michigan right now, and they're gonna beat Michigan. So
we're gonna get into that a lot deeper next week. Because there's no game this weekend coming up, we're only going to do one big preview show next week, which will be fun. I'll have a lot to talk about. Maybe we'll find somebody to bring on. I don't know, but that'll be something to look forward to. But yeah, just hopefully, as long as there's not a hurricane again, I feel good about this team still. I thought 17 points in a hurricane while turning the ball over 5 times actually doesn't look that bad when you think about it. I think they easily could have gotten to 31-34 had they not fumbled as many times as they did. A couple of those drives, it looked like they were moving the ball pretty well.
I don't know how many punts they had. They absolutely had more turnovers than punts, right? Like many of those punts were in Northwestern territory, or several of the turnovers at least were in Northwestern territory. So they killed themselves in those drives, and I think it's in the rearview mirror. It's a learning experience for the freshmen as much as anything, and I think that's actually good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's good that you get to do some positive criticism, and it's in a win. Yeah, that's always. I think Franklin's mentioned that before too. That's always the best time for it to happen. And then one last thing on that defense. Penn State turned the ball over 5 times. I don't think Northwestern had a first down after those 5 turnovers. I think they had 7 yards. I think after that, which is insane. Like it just goes to show the effort that unit has put in so far this year.
The defense is awesome. They're just they're gonna go. I think right now they're like the 5th or 6th best defense in the Big Ten by most metrics, led by Illinois somehow. But I think they have like the chaos that they cause, and they have played some good offenses. I mean, Purdue is pretty good, is okay. Auburn is better than I think people give them credit for a little bit, and they've just shut them down. And I think they're going to rise towards the top of that. They might not be Iowa, and they might not be Michigan all the way, but I think they're going to move up into the top 2 or 3 in the conference.
Yeah, I could see.
Minnesota's going to fall as one of those. Illinois probably too.
Yeah, Minnesota, lost without Mohamed Ibrahim, who no one knew until like 15 minutes before the game he wasn't playing, which is weird. So Purdue got that big win, which makes Penn State's win over them look a little better. And then Wisconsin fired Paul Chryst, which was a little shocking. And then I started reading about the fact that they apparently didn't have a recruiting department for 8 months or something. I'm like, that explains a lot. I still don't know how they got Rucci then after all that. But, that's a different story. But, just really weird there because the record was good, but
he got fired at the same, like he had the same record after whatever number of games as Harbaugh did.
Yeah,
the same, right?
And he had more bowl wins and more
5-1 in the bowls, and Harbaugh's 1-4. Yeah, and he had 3 division wins, and except no conference wins. So it's wow. Yeah,
that was an interesting one. So now 2 coaches in the Big Ten fired already. We're not even at the halfway point of the year, which is crazy to think about. So we had Jay Nelly on earlier, And we got the full cast today. I am stalling while he gets ready down there. So we had to bring Ty on. I have no idea what he's talking about this week. It's a total wild card for us too. So I hope you guys enjoy whatever is about to happen.
Great intro. Love that. How are you guys doing?
Not bad.
Awesome. You've heard us. You've heard it all. Sounds good. Yeah.
You guys kind of know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I have to ask you really quick though, because you played quarterback in high school. I mean, is it a lot more difficult to try to run an offense in the rain like that? Like, does Clifford get somewhat of a pass for that game, do you think?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So I think obviously throwing the ball and protecting the ball and holding on to it's going to be difficult and inclement weather no matter what. So the fumbles, like, it's not an excuse, but it's an issue, and holding on the ball and just the control of the ball is just not there. It's completely different. Mm-hmm. One way I would say no is sometimes his decision-making is just complete dog shit. And I think that's where he's struggling the most with. And I think he probably could have had 3 interceptions on Saturday. I'm a big Clifford guy, honestly. I've always supported him. I've always been the one to defend him in the whole crowd of people that hate him. But it's getting kind of embarrassing that it's his 6th year here and he's still making some of those back throws in the middle of the field, off his back foot in the middle of the field. You know what I mean? So
when his mechanics to break down more often, and like you can see as soon as it leaves his hand, you know it's not going the right way, right?
Exactly. So, and I mean, some of that is like maybe in practice he has on a clean day, he has complete control, and if you get that just extra oomph into it, like he could probably fit into some of those windows. But I mean, come on, he's 24 now. He's got to know when he can try to do something like that and when he can't.
Yeah. Plus, he's old now, 24. I mean, doesn't have the same muscle testosterone that he used to.
Oh God.
I mean,
I'm 44 almost, man. I can say shit.
All right.
Good point.
Good point.
I guarantee my testosterone's higher than
Oh boy.
But yeah, I mean,
let's cut that out.
Weather's something, but it's not everything. So it's still kind of an issue going into Michigan, I think.
All right.
Yeah. So what else do you guys want to talk about?
I don't know. What do you got for us?
You were supposed to brainstorm it over the.
I know. I was struggling big time. I was playing the whole time. No, I mean, it's a bye week. There's not much to do. I mean, bye weeks are actually a good thing, I think, because at times you don't have like a commitment. So like there's no set time. You got to be at a couch for 3.5 hours or tailgating 4 hours before in the stadium for 3 hours. Like you kind of just do whatever the hell you want. So it's the perfect weekend to go out for a bottomless brunch or go to some club during the day or just sit back and drink some beers and flip through games. Like that Northwestern game was hard to watch, but I still sat there and watched 3.5 hours of it. So it's kind of one of those weekends that you have no set plan to just drink and do whatever the hell you want.
What's your go-to though? Watching at home or watching in a bar? If your team's not playing, right?
If my team's not playing, then I'll go to a bar because I really won't give a shit what games are on.
Right.
Like I'll just, if I can just watch a couple plays here and there, cool. But I'm going to be out in the bar socializing.
Yeah. No. When it's Penn State, like I have to hear everything that's going on. Like it's just too loud in those settings sometimes. And it's like if there's like a controversial play and stuff, like I need to hear everything. I can't be like out in public like that.
Yeah, I went to like a Penn State sponsored bar for the Auburn game, which was cool because they actually will stop music and you'll listen to the commentary, and it's cool like being around just Penn Staters. But it still wasn't the same. Like the group of people I was with wanted to leave after the third quarter, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So then it's either do I sit at the bar by myself, or are you guys gonna wait? Like, what's up with that? So it's just a whole different thing. Like I'd rather sit there and just enjoy the game, drink a couple beers, and then go out after.
And you can act like whatever kind of asshole you want when you're in your own house too, right?
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll still do that wherever I'm at, but that doesn't stop me.
Understandable there. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those weekends where you actually get to enjoy your time. Nothing you got to like commit to. Go out and do whatever the hell you want.
It's been 5 really hard weeks in a row. Like stress in football. I've gone on like 6 trips in the last 5 weeks, and I'm excited to just like have a Saturday where I just sit around in the pool and drink some White Claws, and not be bothered with stress at all.
I mean, it's been a brutal schedule for drinking wise too. Like we went from a Thursday night season opener, which was high intensity, where if you were drinking heavy, and then you had to go to work the next morning if you didn't call off. And the following week you had a noon game. And the week after that you had 3:30 in Auburn. So most people were either at the game or drinking by like 11 a.m. because you never knew what the hell was going to happen in that game. Then you had another noon game in State College, and then you had a 3:30 in a fucking monsoon. So it's just, if you're a drinker, you were probably getting a little too drunk these first 5 weeks.
Yeah.
A good dry out week. Yeah. Prepare for it. Because the next 3 weeks are going to be even worse than the first 5. Like any one of the next 3 might be worse than the first 5 if they lose in tough fashion or if they win. So
yeah.
And if they win, pray for me.
The ridiculous thing is
I pray for you all the time, but I'm not religious. I still pray for you.
Two out of those 3 are probably going to be at noon too. Again, we know Michigan's at noon, and it's sounding like Ohio State's going to be at noon because that's the whole reason that Minnesota is the whiteout game. So you got 12, 8, 12 pretty much. So that's going to be another lousy slate to have 2 of those big games at noon again, especially a home game.
Yeah.
And
what do you guys say is like the best kickoff time?
I mean, I kind of like 3:30 just because I think if you get there at 9:30, 10, you still have about 4.5 hours to tailgate. And then after you're probably out of the stadium by 7:15, and then you could either stay in the lots for however long you want or go home, change, shower, and then go to the bars. Like I feel like in terms of doing both, that's the best time. I do like the night games just because like it's just like an all day thing, like getting ready. And then, by the time it's over, I'm probably too tired to go out anyway. So I'm okay with it. So I don't know. One of those 2 is fine with me.
Yeah. If I'm going to the game at 3:30, 2:30 is the best game, I think, or best time, just like Alex said. And then you're not up until 2 a.m. If I'm watching at home, I like the night game the most because you have all day to do whatever you want. And then, you're kind of at your leisure. You've already eaten all your meals. Everything's good. And then, I don't know. But then when you lose, like, then you're up and
you go to bed upset or
you're on Twitter all night, like seeing people yelling about Clifford should be benched or Franklin should be fired.
Yeah, at least when it's a noon game, they lose. Like I could like redeem myself somehow that day. Like
by the end of the day,
yeah, like something good could happen by the end of the day, so you don't worry about it. But
yeah, I'm with Alec on the whole 3:30 or night game, but I don't know if you guys remember a couple of years ago when we had that like 5 o'clock kickoff whiteout for, I think it was like Michigan or something. But
yeah, that was 2000.
It was such a rare thing, but it's so like, I think that's perfect because it's not like too early that if you got up there at noon, you still have 4 hours to tailgate before the game.
Yeah.
And the game's still over by 9 at the latest, 9:30 at the latest. Get downtown, you still have 4 hours in the bar. Like for a whole day event, if you want to do multiple things besides just tailgate in the game, like you want to go out afterwards and see people, then I think that's like prime time for it.
Yeah, I kind of wish college football would adopt the NFL times, like 1, 4:30, and then like 8. Like I think those times are just easier in terms of getting to the game too. That extra hour from the noon game actually makes a ton of difference. So that would be kind of the one thing I would change. I would go more like the NFL schedule in terms of times.
And like all those noon games are 11 Central. Like it sucks to be in Central time for those starts, right? So, and then if Penn State's on the road against Purdue or Northwestern or Minnesota or anybody, you're starting at 11 a.m. That's the worst. So noon is the worst.
Especially when there's no fans in the stands at those games.
Like Purdue, and there's
Northwestern, like
Yeah, think about some of those games we've played in Indiana, and there's like 10,000 people there, and it's like it's always overcast there. I feel like too. It's like never a nice day. There's like 10,000 people. It's cloudy. Beth Mowins is on the call.
I was gonna say Beth Mowins.
It's like the same. It's like Groundhog Day every time we go to Indiana. I feel like.
Yeah. So Beth Mowin or Matt Millen, choose.
Oh my gosh.
The thing with Matt Millen, I feel like he tries too hard to not be like a Penn State homer, where like it comes off as
wrestling.
Like,
he just talks about wrestling.
Yeah, it comes off as like stupid. Like I don't know. It's hard to tell with him. I'm always happy when I'm at the game. I'll just that's.
Dan Orlovsky or Matt Millen. I have a choice on this one. Like
I like Orlowski. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Dan's all right.
I
think
think
Dan's okay.
I think he's the worst out of all of them. Like,
I think he's not a great commentator, but he knows what he's talking
he's smart.
about. Like, he can break down film better than most people, which I like.
And maybe if he has time to watch the game and stuff, he's great. But like in the moment,
yeah,
they had the was it this game? No, maybe it was. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Penn State. But like they don't always know the rules. They don't know the players' names, all these things, and it just like adds up to be the worst. And he's got I don't know, just makes random comments about nonsense that would make Matt like I said last year, he makes Matt Millen look like Kirk Herbstreit. So.
Well, the problem with him is that Monday through Friday actually Sunday through Friday, he's on ESPN doing NFL stuff, and then on Saturdays they throw him to do a college football game, and it's like, well, I don't cover these guys all week. I don't know who the hell they are. And I think that's on them, like on ESPN.
It is. I agree, sure,
for putting him in those situations. Like I thought he did that Monday night game, I think, to start the year, and he did a lot better there. I feel like. And
I used to love Gus and Joel Klatt, and now, like that's going to be Ohio State. With those guys, and it's going to be unbearable, right? Because they're going to be rooting hard for Ohio State.
Well, it doesn't matter.
I'll be there. So.
Coming.
Maybe if it,
you said it. You said 7-0. You'd come.
I said 7-0. So maybe I don't know. All right, you'll have to @Kelly Wilmot on Twitter and tell her that I need to go.
Oh, I got you.
He will.
I'm sure. Please don't. Anyway. That's
fun. That's
you just dropped on Twitter for like our 8 viewers, so
we get like 120. I don't know what you're talking about.
She almost never uses it. Yeah. You better not get like a bunch of followers though, because she'll be listening.
We'll see. Oh man. All right. So this was supposed to be short. It wasn't short, but that happens here often. So we're gonna shut it down here because we have a lot to talk about the next 3 weeks that we need time for. So we're gonna shut this one down here for Nate, Tyler, and Jay Nelly earlier with his rare appearance.
Surgical 6.
Surgical 6. Thanks.